my eyes to quickly get the attention so that I'm not lonely. Because loneliness seems to be a bad thing. And yet many inventors and many geniuses of our history and the greatest minds spent a lot of time on their own, including Jesus. So they're making that hostile environment by being an influence that says your love for your daughter isn't enough. And what you've done for your daughter isn't enough because you don't have a sex partner, because you don't have capital, you don't own a house, you don't own a car. So what you're doing for your daughter, your love isn't enough, and she'll be better off without you. So this is what I mean by closed-minded peers, those who have 15 years older than me plus 20 years. Should I be a Smurf now? With blue skin or green skin? I could speak to them until I'm blue in the face and it goes through one ear through the out the other. As they don't have the same mind and the same likewise they don't have the same thought pattern as me because they're common. They're common-minded. What do I mean by common-minded? They validate each other based on what they have in their houses, the external appearance based on their hairdressing, their makeup, if they are a capital, if they are employed, how many children they have, how many holidays they have. That is how they're common-minded. This is how they very quickly get offended if you're not a professor, for example. You're not professional, for example. Suddenly, they don't want to support you or have anything to do with you. So it's a hostile environment by the majority. And this, I've had enough of this bad influence. And the corrupt or untrained police couldn't care less. They call themselves antisocial managers, and they don't know what they're doing. It's sitting down lazy, not doing anything about the antisocial. In fact, they're there to protect the antisocial and stand up for them if any incident happens, from my experience, for a hostile environment. So they would look at you with a barefaced lie and get away with it. Based on the fact that they won't accept advice, they won't accept teamwork, they will only be fed by free Phoebes, and that's how they validate each other. And I don't like accepting freebies either. It's the first time in my life, in 40 years plus, of having 2 or 3 food banks during the pandemic of COVID-19. And they got involved in especially important individuals to smear my shopping and my food with either the virus itself or some other bacteria. I'm not exaggerating. Recently I had food delivered to me from an app, such as spaghetti bolognese, that had exploded, and the lid was not shut properly. They made an excuse to say it was an accident. I don't believe their excuse. I think it was deliberately done. So 2 of the apps where got my food delivered from, I won't say the name of them, have determined to either make me catch coronavirus or make me feel very, very, very lonely quickly by not supporting me in the community, for giving me the food that I paid for or the service that I paid for. They gave me a disservice. So this type of influence I've had enough of. is also a hostile environment in my local community. It's widespread because they validated me based on the fact that I had been tortured. I have had two oppressive systems oppressing me, and they don't like me for that. And so if I was a man, they could categorize me as themselves, so a social and domestic terrorist. They would say I am them. You are me. I am you. But because they know I'm so different as a woman, they cannot say I am you, or you are me, because I'm so different. And that's why they hate me even more, because they cannot accuse me of who they are. So it's called a psychological projection. Very quickly, in what they are actually guilty of, they would put the blame and shame on you for it. So that's why they've validated me. They didn't value me as a result of exposing them for their evil, which is very... So I'm studying this, and I'm also using reference points of somebody else who's studying it, who's influencing children and the adults, who's going to encourage, and who's going to discourage. So it's not those that don't appreciate Christians and religious people. They want us to be outcast and feel that we don't fit and there's something wrong with us for just simply enjoying my own company and being on my own. If I cannot find someone compatible where I can find harmony, they expect me to have constant conflict, constant pressure, constant bombardment, so that only they have the support as a tyrannical victim or a common individual that's similar to a dragon with 10 heads or 6 heads. So the fact that they cannot change and rearrange you to their own fancy, whatever takes their fancy, they will take the frustration out on you or the victim and say that I should not exist and I should not get any support. I should never be the center of attention. It's only about the tyrannical victims. I'll just use the term the Antichrist and or the false Christ. So the Antichrist is an abuser, would neglect and abuse. And as for the false Christ, it is a tyrannical victim. So the older people are, the more meaningful life becomes with a purpose and a plan. But poor people cannot have a purpose and a plan. So I may look young because I don't have fancy hairdressing and fancy treatments. And so I wanted to discuss this to say not many older people are ready to confess or to answer any question. And they would accuse me of over-analyzing things as an older generation, which makes them less efficient and more evil, because they don't do soul searching and they don't have a soul. They feel that they don't need a soul as an older generation, as long as they have the money and their pensions. A soul is not a spiritual. Then the older people are not spiritual mentors. They only want to congratulate you for your new baby and your new job. without being a spiritual mentor. So many old, since World War II, people think life is so much more easier now because most people are employed, and when it comes to family reunion, the only thing that they're interested in is photography, or where you're going on your next holiday, and when you're going to give birth to your next baby. So this, because life is so much easier for the very capitalists. So there must be different types of capitalism, those that are protecting inventors, but in the name of God, in the name of religion, not those type of inventors that do it, that invent things in the name of something else, which is humanism or Satanism. So there must be proof of this, and there must be an open discussion on this, and how counseling and spiritual mentors and can look at personal things and public things, and to be faithful enough to Christ, first of all, to God. So these are the spiritual mentors I'll be looking at more than anybody else who is a cult or some type of Satanist that is always going to attempt to perverse what is pure. So the proof of being faithful to God in opposition to those that are doing evil is psychological baggage, being able to be alone and have evidence that one was alone for about minimally 5 years after a divorce, and not, for example, and not jump from one relationship to the next. As in my case, I was divorced in 2007 and it's now 2022, and I've been a single since. So that's a challenge that Christians have, to abstain from sex. So rather than being demoralized, I should be credited, not discredited, for doing the right thing to nurture my daughter and to do the right thing, because I knew personally I had to make a foundation for a healthy father figure, not someone who's going to have sex with me and then after 5 or 4 years he's going to leave me for another woman. So that's what I wanted for my daughter, and that's what I managed to have. And even she said, "Well done, Mum," but she's not my teacher. And I wouldn't call myself a teacher, because God is my teacher only. God is my best doctor and everything to me. Lover of my soul. That's how I close my video, complete in what is evil. There's many more things to expose, but these are the highlighted issues that I wanted to open a discussion into the public and see who agrees with me, to do a friend request and to find a way forward when there seems to be no way forward, because political correctness is all that they know. Religion seems to offend them. So to close this video, my goal is to have a new majority that is not off-putted by any religion or any genius or any lone survivor or any inventor that does it for God's glory and God's victory. So that God can save the children. But children are not only children of the future. In closing, everybody has a future. no matter what age they are. I'm Maya Maria Marina Mima Punch with my new name.